Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben, the award-winning gardening podcast as voted for by the Grow Your Own magazine and by my followers and by my listeners. I hope that you have all clicked that subscribe button. If you're new to the podcast channel, please do click the subscribe button and then you get notified of all the new podcasts that get launched. And if you're not following me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok, make sure you look for Gardening with Ben and follow me on all my social medias. So sit back, relax, grab a brew and let's enjoy today's gardening podcast with Ben. Hello and welcome back to Gardening with Ben for a new podcast. Well, I've got 21 days off work, so expect plenty of podcasts coming your way. Fingers crossed, they'll be here every day. I know we've not had any for a few days, but yeah, we are back here with a new podcast. And the previous podcast was all about what jobs to do in the garden in May, so we usually follow that with what seeds and what plants we can start planting in May now that the frost is hopefully on its way out. Fingers crossed the temperatures are going to stay warm for May, so I'm going to be risking a few things, but that is down to your choice. Do not follow me. If you are wanting to plant stuff early, that is up to you. There is always a chance of frost coming. So in these videos we tend to talk about what vegetables to plant in May, what flowers to plant in May, and also what fruit to plant in May. So first off, we're going to talk about all the vegetables you can start sowing, growing and planting out at this time of year. So it's always good to get a notepad or make mental notes of what needs to be done this month, and you can always listen to it again if you want, so feel free to listen over and over again. So sit back, relax and let's get on with today's episode. So now the weather is getting warmer, now we can start to plant lots more vegetables, and we certainly have a long list for you in this episode. So first up is beetroot. This can be either sown straight into the ground or you can sow it in seed trays and transplant it later. But if you're planting it in the ground, remember to start thinning it out once it starts to grow. Broccoli, there's still plenty of time to grow broccoli. So if you're wanting great results, sow them in the ground or in seed trays now. Brussels sprouts, this is the last month to be sowing those Brussels sprouts. Remember, you won't be harvesting them till November, so they are a long growing plant, but starting them now you can hopefully get some for Christmas Day. Cabbage, again, this is the last month to be sowing your cabbage for great results in the summer and autumn, so if you're wanting to grow some cabbage, get sowing them this month. Carrots, you can now start to sow carrots in the ground rather than in seed trays. Remember, carrots do not like stony ground. If a carrot hits a stone, it will cause the carrot to split and make it disformed. So either grow them in pots or in a ground that has been well prepared. Cauliflower. May is the last month to be sowing your cauliflowers for harvests in summer and autumn, so if you're wanting to grow cauliflower, get sowing them this month. Courgettes, you still have plenty of time to get them courgettes grown, so if you do like courgettes, which they are expensive in the supermarket, very expensive, and the more you pick them, the more they will keep growing and flowering all the way through the year, so get sowing some courgettes this month. Cucumbers, now is the time to be potting up your cucumber seedlings this month, ready for moving into the final position. You've probably not got time to be sowing any more at this time of year. French beans, you've still got time to sow your French beans in the ground or in pots first. I've sown all mine in the pots first to stop the mice from hopefully eating all the plants, but yeah, now is plenty of time to be sowing French beans. Next up is kale. Get your kale in this month if you've not already sown it. Again, you're getting towards the end when you can start growing kale. Lettuce. This is the last month to be sowing your lettuce outside. You can always sow some next month, but grow it under cover in a polytunnel or in a cold frame. Marrow. This again is the last month to be sowing your marrow seeds. I know we're only in May, but if you're wanting good harvests, you need to be sowing these things now. Peas, there's still plenty of time to be sowing them peas. Mine have been decimated over the last few days, which I am absolutely annoyed about, so I've got plenty of time to get some in the ground now and get them growing. Parsnips, if you're wanting parsnips, again, May is the last month to be sowing parsnips in the ground. Don't start these off in seed trays. They do not like to be moved. Sow them straight into the ground for great results. Pumpkins. If you're wanting to grow a massive pumpkin, you've still got time to sow one this month, but it will not grow as big as what it would do if you'd have sown them last month. Radish. Keep getting the radish in the ground. Keep sowing it every couple of weeks for regular harvests for your salad bowl. Runner beans. If you're wanting to start a second lot of runner beans off, start them now, and you can replace any that aren't growing well, and you can keep getting that continuous harvest when they start to produce the beans. Spinach. If you're wanting to grow some spinach, directly sow some into the ground this month for fantastic harvests later on in the year, and it'll make you big and strong just like Popeye. Spring onion. You can sow these directly in the ground now. Again, spring onions like to grow in bunches, so sprinkle some in the ground, and you don't need to thin them out, just let them grow and get some great harvests from them. Squash. Again, this is the last time you can plant squash this month until next year, so get some squash in pots now if you're wanting to grow some this year. Sweet corn. If your first lot of sweet corn's not being growing well, you can still sow some now, and you will be able to get some delicious corn on the cob come August, September time. Swiss chard. Have you ever tried growing Swiss chard before? If not, why not sow some this month and give it a try? I'm growing rhubarb chard this year for a change, something that I've never grown before, so yeah, why not give Swiss chard a try. Tomatoes. You can't be sowing tomatoes really much this month, or they'll be really behind, but you should start potting them up now and eventually start moving them into the final position this month of where they're meant to grow. If you're wanting to grow turnips, you can directly sow them straight in the ground this month for fantastic harvests later on in the year. There's not much fruit what you can actually plant at this time of year. The only fruit that you can be planting really at this time of year are melons. If you're wanting to grow some melons, the best advice is to go to a garden centre and get some melon plants. You might be a bit behind if you start sowing them now. I've just got some popping up through in my greenhouse now, so if you're fast, you can get some seeds in now and hopefully get some melons growing. I've also recently just planted some kiwi trees, which I have purchased from the range. Very cheap, and they look fantastically healthy. If you've not seen my YouTube video, have a look at that, because I've just posted a YouTube video today of the kiwis, what I have planted, and I've also got some fig trees to plant as well. I'm not expecting crops from them this year, but they look absolutely fantastic. So what flowers can we plant in May? So the flowers, what we can sow this month, if you're growing foxgloves, now is the time to sow foxgloves. These will not flower this year, but they will next year. So if you start sowing them now, you can get some flowers on them next year. Obviously you need to keep them in the greenhouse or in the polytunnel ready for next year. Poppies, they're so easy to grow. All you need to do is sprinkle some seeds in the area that you want. These will produce seed heads, and once they've flowered, you can then sprinkle these again. Primulas. Sow some primula seeds now for flowering next year. These flowers will always brighten up the garden, and they do like to spread as well. Nigella. These seeds that the birds love, but you can also grow them as flowers as well. If you're wanting to grow some, sow some this month and you will get some beautiful flowers on them. Salvia, you can sow these in seed trays in the greenhouse for fantastic flowers. Sunflowers, you've still got plenty of time to sow some sunflowers. If you've not got any growing, get some sown now, and you can have a competition with the kids and with the family to see who can grow the biggest sunflower. I've got 1,800 plants growing in my greenhouse. I've got to get all them out. I don't think I'll get all them out, to be honest, but we'll get out as many as we can and hopefully get some fantastic flowers on the allotment this year. So if you're wanting to grow some sunflowers, get some sown this month. So yeah, that is basically everything what you can sow this month. Obviously, now that we're getting on later on in the year, it's slowing down of what you can sow because things need to be ready to be going out now. So if you've missed the boat on sowing some seeds, the best option is to go to a garden centre and have a look around and see if you can get some plants to grow from the garden centre and see what you can get with that. So yeah, over these next 21 days, we will be doing lots and lots of podcasts for you to listen to and hopefully get lots of tips from. So if you're a new podcast listener to this channel, click that follow button, click that subscribe button, and you can stay up to date with all our podcasts. If you're not following me on social media, make sure you give me a follow as well, Gardening with Ben. Until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcasts. Thank you for listening to today's Gardening with Ben's podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do click that subscribe button and feel free to share it as well on your Instagram stories. All you have to do if you're listening on Spotify is click the share button and you can share it straight to your Instagram story for all your followers to listen to and help build my listeners up as well and get more people listening to it. Feel free to check out all my social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok. Yes, I'm on TikTok. Go check it out. Check out my dancing. Gardening with Ben. And check out the link as well in the description of this podcast where you can check out my gardening t-shirt shop where I sell funny t-shirts with all different funny logos and designs on. And feel free to support me by purchasing one, and all the money obviously goes back into my allotment where I can share more gardening tips with you all. So until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcasts.